Hi there and welcome again, and here we are with a new section. And at this point you know how to use things like loops and functions and conditionals, and even you know how to do file handling with Python. And in this section we're gonna have some lectures where you will learn how to perform some more advanced functionalities that will really help you understand and do things in certain scenarios when programming with Python. And these are things like understanding and using external libraries, and handling dates and times in Python, and commenting and documenting your code. So quite a few interesting things, and after that you'll be ready to build the first real-world program along with me. So yeah, let's go quickly through this section, and I'll talk to you in the next lecture. Now, when you install Python, what you do is you make available the Python built-in code. An example of this built-in code would be the print function. So let me open a command window here and call Python. So when you say print, you execute and everything works perfectly. So where did you get this print function from? Well, when you start a Python session, like here in the interactive shell, or when you run a script, a Python script, the session loads together with a bunch of built-in functions and methods. And this is one example, so the print function. Now, there are also commands that are not loaded when Python loads, and these are considered to be less frequently used by programmers. So it has been judged that it's not a good idea to load everything into memory when you load Python. So the solution here, the workaround, is that you can load these commands explicitly yourself when you need them. And to do that, you use the import keyword. So let's say you want to concatenate, so to merge a bunch of text files that you have in a directory, in a folder. So you want to merge the text in one single file. And what you need first is you need to create maybe a Python list where you have, as items, you have all the file paths that you want to concatenate. And to generate a list of file paths in the current directory, you need a module called OS. So you need to import OS, because if you just do os.listdir, which is a function that lists the file paths, you'll get an error. It says a name OS is not defined. So what you do is you import OS, and that is successful if you don't get an error. And then os.listdir, and yeah, you get an empty list because I have nothing in here at the moment. So I'm gonna create a file, sample1.txt, and now you get a list with this file name. So what you did is you access the listdir method of the OS module, and you can see a list of available methods that you can apply to your OS module. So dir OS, and yeah, among them you'll find listdir, which is here, so just here. And yeah, don't get scared about this entire code. You don't have to know this. I mean, I don't know most of them. I've just used only a few of them. When the need comes to do something, you just try to Google, and you'll have people who have had the same issue. So you'll get the answer in some forums like Stack Overflow, and you'll see what other people have used. And yeah, this is called introspection. So when you inspect your code, when you see information about the code, like we did here with the dir function. And yeah, OS is a module. We also have libraries and packages, which basically are the same thing, but I'll go through them one by one. So let's focus on module first. And the module is just a Python file, a .py file. So if you apply the file method with double underscore in front and on the back, and you'll get the path of the module. So you can see here it's the module name is OS, so the file name is os.py, and you can go ahead and locate that file now. I think it should be this one here. Yeah, here it is. So this is my Python installation, and you have a lib folder in there, and just inside that you have all the external modules that you can import in Python. So you can try any of them if you like import pickle. And if you don't get an error, that is successfully imported. And you can also ask for help, pickle, to see what the module is about. So create portable serialized representations of Python objects. And this particular module is used for network programming. So if you're interested, you can look at that. And yeah, if you can open this file with any kind of editor. And yeah, this is quite scary. You don't have to understand this code. This will do the work on the background. But it's just good for your information to know what a module is. Alright. Now, there's also the concept of libraries. And libraries have usually more code, so people who build them, they just decided to write the code into different files instead of just one .py file. So you have a collection of .py files for libraries. However, the way you use libraries in Python is the same. So let me locate a library here. So we're still in the lib folder, and all these folders that you see now are libraries. For instance, SQLite 3. If you go ahead and say import SQLite 3, and that is successful, so you did the same thing as you did with modules. And if you look at SQLite 3, you'll see a bunch of Python files, as I said. And here you have files as well. You don't have to know this, but basically what happens is when you import a library, this init.py file is executed in Python, and this contains the code that loads all the available methods in Python. Now, this particular one, what this does is it imports yet another file into Python, so a module, SQLite 3 DB API 2. Which is this one here. So it refers to SQLite 3, the folder name, and then a dot, and then DB API 2, the name of the file, of the Python file that is imported. And then inside here you have other code, and so on. You don't have to know this. It's enough to understand the structure. And yeah, that's about libraries and modules. And these modules and libraries, they come with your Python installation by default. However, they don't do every possible thing that is out there. That's why third-party modules and libraries exist. And these are often referred to as packages. Now, these packages, they don't come with the default installation of Python. And the good reason for that is there are lots and lots of packages out there, and you don't want to get a heavy installation there on your computer by default. There are packages of biology and astronomy, web scrapping, everything, and so there are things that you're not really interested. And yeah, the solution to that is you install these packages, and then you use them just as you do with modules and libraries. And the way to install them is you just open your terminal, so command line on Windows, terminal on Mac and Linux. The directory doesn't matter, and all you do is you say pip install. Let's install glob2. So this is a package, or you can refer to it as a third-party library. And you hear people referring to packages as third-party libraries. And yeah, this installs glob2 for you. Now you can go ahead and access it in any Python session, glob2, and yeah, you're done. Similarly, you can ask for help for that package, so help glob2, and yeah, you see what this is about. Sometimes though they don't say what they're about in the help file, so you'll have to search on the internet for glob2. And every package has its own page almost. So glob2, just like that, and yeah, you go here. So what this does is it captures patterns and supports recursive wildcards. And basically what this do is, you know, if you say glob2.glob, and yeah, you just need to pass a file path there. Sorry. And yeah, what this does is when you pass an asterisk there, it lists all the files in there. But if you want only the text files, you do want to say asterisk.txt, and it gives you every file that has a txt extension. So in this case, you have this particular file in that directory. And this is useful over a list dir because, you know, if you want to only get access the txt files, and you'd want to do this because in a directory you may have lots of files. This allows you to access only a few of them. And yeah, now about pip. So you saw me use this pip package. Actually, pip is a library that comes installed with Python, and you can find it in the scripts folder. Pip, yeah, so pip.exe is for Windows. Pip is normally in the computer search path, which underlies that, you know, when you are in your terminal and you do pip, your computer knows where to get pip from, so it gets this pip.exe. And pip, then what pip does is it downloads the package, and once it downloads it, it installs it. So if you go up here, yeah, it says pip install glob 2 and downloading and then installing the package. And then the package is there in your system, and you can use it as you do with modules and libraries. So to sum it up, modules are Python scripts that you can import into Python, and libraries are collections of Python scripts, and you can import libraries as well, and also packages are third-party libraries. So 3 different terms are there, but library, you can use the term library as a general term for anything that is imported in Python. You know, just for the sake of simplicity, people do this. So that's about this lecture, and you could even make it through without knowing this information that you got from this lecture, but it's good to understand these things, as you can also understand and be able to fix problems that you might get with modules and libraries or packages. So yeah, if some things look unclear to you, then just drop a question, and I'll talk to you in the next lecture. Hey, hi again, and in this lecture you're going to learn how to comment and document your code. That is very simple actually. So what do I mean by commenting and documenting? Well, commenting, let's suppose you write a script and then you want to give that script to other programs, or you're just working in a team or with other developers, and what you want to do is you want to find a way to document your script to your colleagues. And that's what commenting is about. So comments are this. So you start with a hashtag and you write whatever you like. Let's say create empty file. So what I did here is, you know, I had this script that what this script does is it has a function that function creates an empty file called sample1.txt. And if you give this script to someone else, they may try to read the code and understand what you're doing there. But alternatively, you can help them by adding here a line that is not read as code by Python. So Python ignores everything that goes inside a hashtag. Basically, the way you do this is, you know, before writing the function, you write this comment, and then comment basically means that you're pointing to this block of code. Now, be careful if you click enter and start something here, this will be read as code by Python. So comments are in line. You cannot have them in another line. If you want, you can of course do this if you want to add more lines. You can also write something besides some code. So for instance, writing empty string, and yeah, everything will work fine. And yeah, that's about comments, and we also have doc strings, which allow us to document our code. And you know, with documentation, what I mean is, let's say you import OS, and then if you do os.doc, you'll get the doc string. So this is called the doc string. And what it basically is some basic information about the library or the module or the package that you are importing, that you are using in Python. And yeah, you can do the same. So if you import example, what you do, you are importing the example.py as a module, and if you say example and __doc__, in this case you don't get anything because you don't have a doc string in your file. So if you want to give some information about your script to other people, you may want to add a line here with triple quotes, like that, and between those triple quotes it comes a docstring, and that would be something like, you know, this script creates an empty file, and if you save that, you go to the command line, and if you well, you wouldn't be able to access it right away if you try like this. So it's still empty because Python is still holding the old version of your example module. And by the way, to import Python script as a module, you need to be in the same directory with your Python script. So I open this command line in the current directory. And yeah, to get the docstring, you can either close this session, so the interactive session, and then open a new Python session again and import example.py and then access the docstring. Or if you want, you can do another trick. You import the imp library and then you say imp reload, and then you pass example, so the name of the module you want to reload. Yeah, then you do the same thing, and then you get the docstring in there. And similarly, you can have docstrings inside functions as well. This function creates an empty file, like that, and yeah, go to the command line. Let me try exiting this time. So exit the script, start again, import example dot create file dot doc, and you get the line in there. So this function, it should be this function. Anyway, this function creates an empty file. And as you can see, you can access functions from your module using the dot notation. You know, if you do like that, that will execute your function, your Python function, and it will create the sample.txt file. So let me try that by deleting this. Delete that and we'll execute again, and sample1.txt is there now. And a last illustration, you know, docstrings, you can find them in Python modules as well. As you see here, we have os.py, which I demonstrated earlier, and you see the docstring in here at the beginning of the file. You can see R as well, which what this does is, you know, if you look at this docstring, this has some special characters, like this \n, and what \n does, it normally creates a break line when you are inside a string. So as you see, when you pass \n, that will create a break line, or like that. We'll use \n later, so don't focus on that for now if you don't understand it. You'll understand it very well when we use it in real-world examples. So if you think you're having such special characters, it's good to pass R there, and that will treat the string as a raw string, so it will ignore such characters. So it will not treat \n as a special command for break lines, but it will treat it as a single character. So it will print it along with your line as \n. Yeah, that is clear, I believe, and we close this lecture now. We have some more lectures to go, so let's move on. Alright, dates and times in this lecture. And before going through the code, I would first like to mention a few examples when you'd use dates and times, because for now I believe you don't have much of an idea on how you're going to use dates and times in Python, or how does this code look like. So dates and times, you may use them, you know, let's say you want to create a script that generates files automatically, and you want those files to have as a name, to have the current date. You know, instead of sample.txt, you'd have like 2016 and 514, and so on. So that could be, you could have a Python program where you call the program and you pass a balance of your bank account if you want to store the balance. Then you want to create a single file every day when you call a script. So that file would get as a name the current date automatically without you having to type that down. So Python is able to give you the current date and time up to the microsecond accuracy. Also, other examples would be, you may want to know the difference between two dates. So how do you do that? You know how to use numbers and strings, and you can probably do that with numbers, but that would be not very efficient. So you really want to know how to use date and time objects, which are special objects in Python, are not just strings and numbers. So, or other example, you may want to plot some time series data along a date-time axis. And yeah, you can generate that graph with Python, and we'll do that in the course later on. So we will be using dates and times in many of our applications that we'll be building. And we have two modules that provide date-time object for us. The first module is called date-time, and the other is time. The most important one is the date-time module. These two modules are built in Python, so you don't have to install them. And yeah, datetime is basically used to manipulate dates and find differences and many other things. And also the time module is more frequently used to control the time when the script runs. And we'll go through that in just a bit. So first let's start with the datetime module. And I'll open a command line and start a Python session. Import datetime. That's what you have to do. And yeah, let me go through an example. Very frequently you'll be using the now function of the datetime class. Just like that. So datetime is a module name, and then you have a class with the same name, and that class has a method called now. If you execute that, you get a datetime object. And that's really a datetime object, so it's a special object if you check class datetime. What this has is, it has a series of numbers where the first one is the current year, and then the current month, the current day, the current hour, minute, seconds, and microseconds. That means every time you execute that, you get the current time. So it was 58, now it's 59 seconds. Sorry, minutes, this is seconds. And this is dependent on your computer time. So if I change the time now, change time settings, change date and time, go 11 and press OK. If you execute that again, now it goes up to 11. So what datetime does, it just grabs the time from your computer. Yeah, let me set that back. All right. And I seem to have put it PM, sorry about that. So yeah, this is good because you now know that this is a 24-hour system. Yeah, I put it PM, and it's 11, and that should be good. Great. Now what if you want to find the difference between the current time and a specific time? In this case, you want to pass that specific time manually. So you'd want to write that down manually, and to do that, you access the datetime class, and there you pass the numbers of your date. Let's say 2016 and 5. Let's say yesterday, and 11, 0, 0, and 0. Now I can either subtract the datetime now from this, or I can store this in a variable. Let's say yesterday equals to that. And then now you can also store this in a variable. So now is this, yesterday is that. And you can see that this has truncated the seconds and microseconds because you passed 0. So it's doing something intelligent. Something that you should be aware of, is that whenever you print out now, you get the same time because that time was stored in the moment you called datetime.now. So you get the same value again. And yeah, to make the difference, you do now minus yesterday. And what you get is yet another datetime object, which is called a time delta. And what that gives you, it gives you an array with the day as the first element, and then you have seconds, and then you have microseconds. Now, if you want, you can subtract from that. Let me store that in a variable. Let's say delta. So delta is that delta dot days, and you get a number of days there. And if you want, you can get the number of total seconds. You need to pass brackets in there. So that would be the total number of seconds, the difference between those two dates. And yeah, let's now look at an example how would we use datetime in this example. So what this does is, we are passing this file name to this variable, and we use this variable to name the file that we are creating. So what this will do, it will create a file with this name, and that file is here, so sample1.txt, and that will be an empty file. Now, how about creating a file that has as name the current date? And for that, what you do, is datetime.datetime.now, and you also need to import datetime like that. And yeah, let's go one step at a time. I'll open a command line in here. Terminal Plus is not working at the moment, so it has some problems, and I hope it will work in the future, but that will not affect any of the activities we're doing here. So it's the same as keeping the command line in here. Terminal Plus is just a bit more convenient. And yeah, Python example.py execute. And nothing happened, we didn't get an error, everything is working fine, no file. Yeah, we haven't called the function in here. So create file, and yeah, just call it like that. Try out again, and you get an error. And the reason to that is, this is not a string object, this datetime.datetime. This is a datetime object, so when you name files, you want to use a string. So let's do just that and say string convert datetime into a string. Because that's what that will do is like now is a datetime object, but if you say string now as argument, that will be converted into a string of this format. So let's execute the script again. And this time you get yet another error. This says invalid argument. The reason for that is, Python is trying to name a file that has a colon in the name. Now that is not allowed by the operating system, so you'll get an error. So the solution here would probably be to convert the date and time into a format like 2016, maybe 05 and 14. 11 and so on. So you use dashes there, which are acceptable. And to do that, you want to use formatting characters. And the way you use formatting characters is like this. You have now there, so the datetime object, and then you apply the string from time methods, strf time. Then you pass a string with formatting characters. There are quite a few formatting characters actually, which you can find in this site. So for instance, if you want to to get the year out of your date as a string, you'd want to pass %y with a capital Y. Or if you want to just get the year as a zero padded decimal number like this, you'd want to pass %y with small y. And yeah, let me try this. So we would want to get the year, and then we'd want to have a dash, like anything will be reflected in the string. So let me pass dash there. And then we may want to have the month, then the day, and then the hour, the minutes, seconds, and microseconds. Execute that, and this is a string. So this is a string object, and you get the year, the month, and so on. And of course, you can do any kinds of combinations that you like. So for instance, you could say B, percentage B, and maybe a space there, and then the year, and maybe the day. Execute that, and you get May 2016 and 14 for the day. So you can literally make any kinds of combinations that you like with this format. And yeah, let's apply this in our example. So we remove string, and what we do is, file name .str time, and then inside the strings here you'd pass year, month, and day, hour, and minutes. That would be enough. So let's keep it like that. Save that and go here to execute it. Yep, so we got a file with this name, as you see. Great, so that is working. And if you want to add something there, if you want to add an extension txt, you'd want to say plus.txt and execute again, and you get a file with a txt extension, as you see here. And lastly, about the datetime module, we were able to subtract between 2 days, but how about adding a period of time to a date so that we get another date? Let's go to our Python shell. So we have now, and let's add 2 days in now. What you do is, let's say after would be equal to now plus date time dot time delta, and then here you pass, days equals to 2, execute, and here is after, so it's 2 days after 16. You can also pass seconds in there as a parameter, say like that, after, and this is what you get. So Python will actually get the seconds out of this, will add to the seconds, and then it will convert the remain to minutes and hours if necessary, and so on. And it will give you a correct date. That is exactly this period of time after this now date time. So that's about date time. And very quickly now, we also have a module called time. Now this comes very handy when you want to delay some actions, some operations in your Python script. For instance, let me create an empty list. And what I want to do with this list, I want to add 5 items in there. And each of these items will be the date and time. And there will be a difference of 2 seconds between these date items. And so what you want to do is create a loop. Let's say for I in range 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, lst.append date time dot now. So what I'm appending is the first iteration of the loop. I am appending the current date and time, and then I want to wait for 2 seconds or just 1 to keep it quick. So the number you pass there is seconds. And if I execute that now, what it will happen is, the script will record the first date time in the list, and that will wait for 1 second, and that it will record the second time, and the second date time, and so it will wait for another second, and so on. And LST will be this now. Or let me print that out for I in LST print I. And yeah, this is what we got. We got 5 dates and times. And as you can see, they have 1 second of difference. So this second, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you can also see the microseconds here. And this reveals the accuracy of the time module. So your computer is recording the microseconds at this execution of the loop. And then the time module does the loop to wait for 1 second But that 1 second of the time module is not exactly, a million microseconds. So there's a certain flow and accuracy, which is not a problem practically. So yeah, this is the time module, and we're done with this lecture. I hope you learned lots of things from this. I will be using time and datetime a lot in the course. So yeah, let's move on.